So what I will be talking about a little bit more is about this first part of the panel. What is the current status on e-participation in Europe, and what were developments so far, and what we have learned, and what we can take from these lessons in terms of designing future crowdsourcing pilot on European policies. As already Anthony and Angelina and also Elisa before me were talking, there are many tools existing on the European Union institutions landscape, starting in 2001 with the interactive policy making. Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Starting in 2001 with the interactive policy making initiative by the European Commission, which then evolved later into the Your Voice in Europe consultation platform. Then also simultaneously, the European Parliament enabled online submission of the petitions to the European Parliament. Then a little bit later, there was a very interesting project still going on about Debate Europe, which is more interactive, based on discussing different topics relevant to the European Union issues and having a promise that these topics are directly connected to the feedbacks of the decision makers in the European Union. Then, of course, in 2012, the European Citizen Initiative started, also with a possibility to sign initiatives online. And the latest development is about Futurium platform, which is kind of not yet widely used platform enabling policymaking 3.0. It's run by the directorate responsible for the digital agenda. I think it's Connect. And they're experimenting with this new foresight, a little bit also crowdsourcing elements in designing EU policies. And of course, when talking about Europe as a whole, as a continent, according to the latest e-participation index measured by the United Nations, the continent as a whole is quite well developed in terms of how many online tools are available there, both on European level and on the national level. And of course, this methodology is a little bit not well developed because they're not really measuring what is the actual impact of those tools. In overall, when talking about e-participation, the scholars and the practitioners and experts are still struggling with the ideas how to measure the real impact of e-participation. And those veterans of e-participation project in Europe, like Anthony, like Fraser, I can see here a friend from Euroactive, know that when we are doing these projects and others are doing, it's not easy to measure the impact. And there was one interesting research done by Pedro Martin, scholar from Spain. He was evaluating the impact of the participation projects by measuring, on one hand, how much money was invested in participant projects during 7th Framework Program and the Policy Support Program, and how many people actually participated. And my question to you now is, what do you think, what was an average amount of money spent for single post on online forum or single petition signed online when citizens participated in these EU-funded projects? How much euros would you say was the cost of this single interaction? Don't be shy, say. 10 euros? Okay, 10 euros. More? 1 euro? Okay, I was thinking going higher. 100? 100? Okay, would you like to see what was the real number? 500 euros. European Commission spent it, there was quite, I think it was more than a dozen projects in worth of, I think it was about 10 million euros. And if you calculate how many people actually participated according to the deliverables of those projects, the average cost of the project was 500 euros for each interaction. So the problem with the European project is that not much people are actually participating. However, in latest, there is some latest development going on. We can see that still those tools can enable massive engagement. Maybe you know this case about consultation on the Europe's natural laws, when more than 500,000 contributions was submitted through the European Commission online consultation platform, and also these European citizen initiatives on water, when more than 1 million of signature was actually collected through online mechanism. So, however, another issue here is whether actually are those tools actually bringing to the better perception of the public of the European Union institutions? Are people more, how to say, trusting European institutions? Do they think that their voice is counting more in European Union? Actually, there is no real connection, at least in terms of what public opinion surveys are talking. So we are having a lot of these tools, a lot of projects, but public opinion is not really affected by this. So this is also one reason to discuss. Maybe but also Anthony was talking how to engage, not engaged, because usually the usual suspects are participating in the online tours at the EU level. And also, then is the problem with the European elections turnout. You can see that turnout is falling down. This is also one indicator that something, we are missing this connection with the e-participation and how democracy works in the European Union. So, are we puzzled by e-participation? This is one of the cases which I also participated as a partner, which was about involving citizens into designing migration policy in the European Union before the current crisis emerged. And we tried to combine different online tools in order to involve citizens, NGOs, to create policy proposals for tackling migration policy of the European Union. And of course, at that time, it was 5 years ago, we didn't think about this as crowdsourcing project. But it had some elements. We had this online platform and people were discussing different opinions. We also tried to combine those opinions in terms of what type of opinions, contributions they are. Are there emotions? Are there informations? Are there arguments pro or against? Are there comments? And I was personally moderating this. And I can send you, when you're moderating this kind of huge, how to say, interactive forum, it can be a full-time job. And I also learned a lot about the psychology of people discussing online, which is something also, I think, relevant for when talking about future European EU crowd pilot. But what we learned from that project is that e-participation is not so much about technological issues. At the end, we are always constantly inventing new e-participation tools, starting with simple websites, emails, bulletin boards in the middle of the 90s. And then we started with online forums, and then at the beginning of the millennium, social media emerged, and now we have different new interactive tools, but the issues with e-participations more or less are staying the same. And these are the issues with political terms, how the institutions are running, and also social context is important. And these are a few lessons that we learned from this particular project, is that those tools have to be really aligned to the public opinion policy topics which are in the heart of the people are discussing. For example, that two cases I showed you previously, on previous slide, about this consultation and the water issues. Why do you think they're both connected to the environment policy issues? Because the environment policy issues have very developed not only civil society, strong civil society and NGOs in the field which can generate public input, but also the sense of the European citizens about that the environmental issues are important is very well developed. And also the environmental policy issue is one of the first policy areas that had international convention signed on the citizens' participation called Aarhus Convention. So meaning that for the future EU crowd pilot, it's very important that we try to pilot on the policy field which is already having some track of record of successful e-participation. And of course, I'm not going to go in detail, but as I said, I think these non-technical issues are important to discuss in terms of e-participation. So to conclude, what would be my observation when when talking about the pilot on the EU crowd pilot. I think, first of all, we have to have this understanding how important is the trust into the democratic policy making. Because people are not engaging if they don't see that there is a meaning, that they can really impact the decision. Also, I think the public perception image of the European institution is really low. I'm coming from Slovenia. I'm not really traveling a lot to Brussels. I'm not part of this Brussels bubble, and I can see that on the periphery there is a lot of criticism going on towards the Brussels and the European Union. You can also see this rise of nationalism in different EU member states, and these are the issues which have to be considered seriously. And also, a lot of people are not really aware that there are different e-participation tools available. Also, this information flow has to be improved so the people can know how they can engage, which websites are available to them, and how to use those tools. And of course, I think this is connected with the civic education. So, having those issues, those tools educated in the school system, I think it's something that would bring more to the participation. And of course, civil society, I think this is the case. I don't think that there is a coincidence that the ECAS is today organizing this conference, because I think the civil society is now in the front running of the participation issues at the European level, since the European institutions had a little bit back. I think they're not really interested at the moment in e-participation because of the other issues. And I'm really glad that now civil society is still running these issues, opening debates, organizing events like that. Hopefully it is going to convince the European institution this is still important issues for the future of the European Union. And this is also that, now I'm finishing my presentation, this is the announcement of another project it just started in September this year. It's a project funded by the Erasmus program, by the citizens, European Citizens Program, yes, which is involving 8 partners. And the main aim of the project is to discuss and to identify both practices based on the report of the ECAS and try to refine it in terms of what would be conditions from the viewpoint of the national environments, from the viewpoints of the people on the ground, how would they envision the future EU crowdsourcing project in terms of topics, in terms of process, in terms of tools, and also try to network the stakeholders, the people interested to be part of this pilot project. So we are going to work on this societal background reasons that are needed to motivate people to engage when this project is going to be active. So that's all from me. Thank you very much. I'm looking for this discussion.